are listening to Graphic Novel Explorers Club podcast, an audio book club.
Greetings, explorers. I'm one of your hosts, Johnny, joined by
Dennis,
and our guest host,
Aubrey.
Today we are discussing Batman: The Last Night on Earth by writer Scott Snyder and artist Greg Capullo. We hope you've already read today's title because all three of us have read the book, so beware, spoilers ahead. Graphic Novel Explorers Club is available wherever fine podcasts are found, including YouTube, so be sure to subscribe and leave a review. That's right, today we are looking at Batman: Last Night on Earth, and it is part of DC's Black Label, and it was published last year in 2020. What is DC's Black Label? We kind of talked about this in the thing we did with Nicole and Dave Baker. I think one of either you or one of them had mentioned something about Black Label, but is this like Johnny Walker Red Label or?
It's a more mature label, so they have stuff that's not necessarily in continuity. That's more mature. They can show Batman's penis, I guess, which is the first infamous things. He can say fuck. I don't. Beyond that, I don't know exactly. Aubrey, do you have a deeper opinion on what exactly it is?
I actually have no idea. I'm very curious to learn about that, and I would love to see Batman's penis.
Yeah, that's not a joke. One of their first ones had I think they later shadowed it, but it had a shot of him taking off his outfit, and I think his penis was in silhouette.
I love that they were given that freedom, and that's the first thing they wanted to do.
I know, that guy was finally, years after
the people have been waiting.
Yeah, exactly. Now we can finally, holy bat penis.
So was he circumcised or uncircumcised?
You'll have to see.
You have to read that. You have to read that one.
Tune in next time. But yeah, it's a more mature label.
Oh, okay. It's just so they can kill that one. Because there's some in this book. There's some gruesome deaths in this.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought that was kind of par for the course for a Batman book. I guess not, huh?
They're more mature label, but I wouldn't say they avoid killing in the normal label. I mean, they have stuff like DC Deceased, which is their zombie storyline, and people get slaughtered left and right. DC Death Metal, which was also written by Scott Snyder, no relation to Zack Snyder, also has lots of killing. So no, it's not just that, oh, now we can kill people. It's definitely for a more mature line of stories that are definitely not in continuity.
And Aubrey, you picked this book out. What made you choose this one?
Oh, well, what made me choose it was actually just that a friend got an action figure of the figure that you see on the front of the book, the whole collected books. I'm not sure which cover that is, but it's a silhouette of Batman holding the Joker in the jar.
In the straitjacket.
Yeah, and it's such a cool action figure, and I was like, what the heck is that? What is he wearing? And then my friend told me the synopsis, and I was like, holy shit, I need to read that. And so that's why I read it.
I was really happy you chose the book. Well, go ahead, Johnny.
I was going to say, I thought, I saw the image, and then then I started reading the book, and I kept going and going and going. I was like, when the fuck does Batman become the Green Lantern? And then I looked back at the cover. I was like, "Oh, that's the Joker's head. He's not holding an actual Green Lantern.
Yeah, Joker Lantern."
Batman does become Green Lantern. There's also an evil Green Lantern Batman. But anyway,
wow.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm really happy you chose this because I'm a big fan of Scott Snyder's run on Batman. He's done a lot of good stories. His partnership with the artists is amazing. I love the artists as well, and so I was really happy you picked this book. It's kind of he finished his run, and they continued obviously after him. But this is kind of what if he was writing the final Batman story, which is similar. I think X-Men did something like that, where they had this is the final X-Men story, what happens years from now, etc. So I really like the take on this because, as we've discussed before, Johnny. A lot of times, the problem I have with a lot of these superhero stories is that they never age, right? Batman's always, 35 forever, which doesn't make sense. He has this huge history, yet he's always the same age, which, funny enough, it kind of dovetails in one of the plot points here. in the story. But I like when they can actually do a final story where no holds barred, people can die. There's no restriction on deaths, and which is why, as listeners know, I'm a big fan of What Ifs, Elseworlds, anything where they can just basically break the rules of the normal story and actually be able to have the characters develop in some way.
Yeah, I think the fact that this was Scott Snyder's last Batman story and the fact that it was Scott and Capullo's like last collaboration on a Batman story comes through completely, because it's just like a no holds barred, like what's the wildest thing we could do, still staying true to the universe and paying tribute to all the characters. I think you can feel that, and that's one of the things I like about it.
For sure.
So they're not right. Neither one of them are going to do any more Batman stories.
Well, they're officially not on the Batman line. There's another series they have done, because they're such a popular combo, have done other things after their initial run. They did DC Death Metal and DC Metal. Those are different runs, and which involve like the Batman Who Laughs, which is a Batman who gets corrupted by the Joker virus and ends up killing his own universe and goes into other universes. Anyway, I don't want to go down that train, but I could probably talk all day. But they have done stuff together, but in terms of like official Batman line, they're done for now at least. And they're a very popular duo. I mean, they did the Court of Owls, which was an amazing... I thought it was going to be a total joke at first, but I bought into it. I have every issue of their run for the Batman series. I love it.
Yeah, supposedly for that upcoming Batman game, the Court of Owls is supposed to be the major antagonist.
Ooh. Oh, that sounds fun.
But no Batman. It's just the family. There's no...
Right. It involves Batgirl, Batwoman maybe, Nightwing, Robin.
Yeah. And Batmite.
Right. I wish. Batmite. I love Batmite. I love Bizarro, and I love Batmite.
Yeah, and well, I think something that's great about this is because, like I said, a friend told me about it, and the friend told me the whole story, and there's so many twists and turns in this, but it made no difference. Like reading it, it's such a solid story, and it's just such a fascinating concept, and it's told with such artistry that it really doesn't matter if you know every single thing that happens. So that's my spoiler alert: is it doesn't matter. Yeah. So a rundown. Well, it opens. I want to talk about how it opens because it ends up being super significant in a way that I didn't pick up on the first time that I read it, because I read it a couple of times now. But it opens with a memory of Bruce Wayne, which is a memory of how he found a reason for why his parents died. So, it wasn't a random mugging. There was this whole very specific reason that they died. And so he's reflecting on a very disturbing memory of how he figured that out, allegedly. Then we cut to Bruce Wayne in Arkham. It turns out, skipping a lot of pages, that he's not Batman and he never was. And it's all just been in his head. And Alfred is there and trying to sort of comfort him through that process. So that's your first reckoning. That's sort of like phase one of this story is, oh shit, he was never Batman. It was all in his head.
A lot of the things I liked in that part too was I didn't realize this as the story progressed. I thought it was just going to take place with him trying to come to terms with if he's Batman or not. The thing I liked a lot was like the parody names, the kind of parody names. So the doctor that's treating this quote unquote Bruce Wayne in the asylum, his name is Dr. Redmond Hood. I like that. And there was just, everybody from his rogues gallery was
right. It's basically
caretaker.
Their names. Because the Joker's
but it was like
Red
little
Hood.
plays on their
right.
on their
Oh
name.
my God. Thank you for saying that, because so his name was Redmond Hud. And I was like, I know that name is significant. And I Googled it and I was like, why is that sticking in my head? And just now when you said it, I was like, Red Hood. Thank you. It's been bothering me for weeks.
Yeah,
like,
I was a huge fan of that initial part because it reminded me of a few things. The TV show The Prisoner. It reminded me of an episode of G.I. Joe where Cobra tries to trick Shipwreck that the war's over and they've made peace with Cobra.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that episode.
That was a crazy episode. And yeah, I just love the idea that, there's a little bit of Wizard of Oz. Like, hey, this has all been a dream. This isn't really what's been happening. All those villains you've been trying to fight were really people who are just trying to help you. With a little bit of Sucker Punch too. Zack Snyder film. and then,
the whole thing that kind of starts this off though, I was like, why would Batman investigate chalk crimes? Because there's not even the thing that gets everything going is that someone's been leaving chalk lines throughout the city, and then Batman uses his bat computer to eventually like piece together it's this like a dead body outline drawing of him, and at the heart of it is where Crime Alley is, where Bruce's parents died. But
I think just, Gotham is his city. He's kind of the watchdog of the night. He's just keeping tabs on what's happening and if anything fishy is going on, especially with people like the Joker and the Riddler running around doing nefarious, weird shit. You gotta keep on top of it. It's a weird thing to random chalk lines.
Yeah. I would agree that that's basically he uses a supercomputer. So, I mean, if there's one piece of graffiti, he's keeping track of it in case it's some weird clue that the Joker or the Riddler's
beating up any kids that leave graffiti. Stay in school.
Those religious nuts who write John 3:15 on curbs and shit everywhere, and you can like follow them from one spot to another on where they've been writing John 3:15.
It's actually kind of funny because in one of Scott Snyder must have a million of these ideas, but in the DC Metal universe, there was one Batman called the Grim Knight, and he was like basically the Punisher. And in his universe, he had drones everywhere, and he monitored every kind of crime, even minor crimes.
Whoa.
And he basically had a full lockdown on the city. And if you think about it, if you take Batman to the next level, well, we talk about it later in the story, any kind of crime, any of those
authoritarianism.
Yeah, any of those smaller crimes, he feels like he has to like clamp down on. So
he's like RoboCop in RoboCop. Was it 2 or 3 where his settings get too extreme, and so he starts like arresting people for smoking a cigarette.
I have very vague memories of those because I try to black out most of anything after RoboCop 1.
Yeah, if you think about that, if you really look at the character of Batman and he wasn't in this like Arrested Development, that would be a logical progression of where this guy's psychological state would probably go, which, like you said, we do see later in this book, which is a really cool thing that they explored. So yeah, phase 1 is, oh shit, Batman was never Batman. He's in an asylum. There's a lot of cool touches, like in his, what's that room called? It's all padded. His padded cell. In his padded cell, he finds a dinosaur and a penny hidden in the wall, which is like a throwback to his bat cave. So, the padded cell has been the bat cave all along. So it's fun stuff like that. Fun, terrible, haunting stuff like that. Then we find out that Alfred has just been playing a terrible psychological trick on Batman with this whole thing, which it's all explained in that he was trying to protect Bruce from what was really happening and what's really going on. But as with anything in the real world, when you try to protect people with lies, it's really more damaging than anything. Although I don't know that that's really explored in this book. But Bruce figures it out, like, okay, this isn't real. These are, I forget the name of the person who's programming the whole simulation.
What was it? Toymaker?
Toymaker.
Yeah.
Toymaker was creating this whole simulation. Bruce wasn't supposed to wake up yet. He woke up too early. It wasn't quite ready. So, of course, he saw through everything. So he gets the hell out of there, taking with him his badass straitjacket Batman suit and cowl, which was like they said it was his like neuro
for electroshock therapy.
Yeah, electroshock therapy. Bat cowl.
It was pretty cool.
It was very, very cool. So, okay, so he was the Batman after all. What is going on? There's kind of a jump cut where we don't really figure out why he ends up in the next place he does, which is he's suddenly in the desert. But there's not really, it doesn't explain how he got there. It seems like
wherever he was, it was underground. So he emerged from there. They showed him wherever portal. And also, to jump on what you said, it doesn't initially really, it hints at it, but doesn't explain why he's so young. Like, he's still the same age, while Alfred is clearly older. So there's something mysterious about that.
Right, that's right. So there's something very weird going on where Alfred's been trying to save him from the truth, and Alfred's like near death. He's hella old, and Bruce is still, 35, his eternal 35. Pops out of the desert, pops out of the sand, just like bursts his way out, and finds an old friend who is not the Green Lantern, although it is a lantern containing the disembodied and very much alive head of the Joker.
Like a Futurama head.
Yeah.
Right.
Head in a jar. Which sets up this really cool dynamic throughout the book between the two of them. Like, that's my favorite part, I think, of the whole thing, is the Joker was written really well. He has some hilarious lines. And I thought it really made sense the way that they kind of fell together, their relationship fell together, even though it should be sort of like, why would Bruce trust him? Like, he remembers everything that's ever happened, but to me, it's just like, well, because he doesn't have a body. Like, what's he going to do?
And skipping way, way ahead, that Joker winds up becoming Robin in this like robot suit. And at one point, spoiler, the antagonist and the protagonist are Bruce Wayne in this. He's very protective of the Joker as the Robin. And I just liked that, like, here was the culmination of all their shit together. And they're like almost like codependent on each other at the end of this story.
And it's been seen throughout various stories and talked about, but Joker really is the super Batman fan. He understands Batman inside and out. He understands all the Robins. He understands what makes Bruce Wayne and Batman tick. And it's a perverse relationship. I do think it's weird that the Joker was so cooperative and not backstabbing to Batman at all, but it could be those years after being in your head to think about things. He's finally kind of resolved some of his demons.
He became sane.
Yeah, in some way he became sane and was a lot more lucid than he had been previously.
Yeah, well, that, and also he knows what we haven't talked about yet, which is he knows like how the world essentially ended, which was with Batman progressing to that extreme that we were talking about. So he's kind of seen the direction that can go. And so he has the opportunities to not have it go that direction. I don't understand why exactly he doesn't want it to get that chaotic, because it seems like chaos seems like his vibe. But like you said, yeah, maybe just being literally stuck inside his head in the desert for, I don't know how many years, decades?
Yeah, I think so. That's one of the things in the story is Bruce Wayne, with his foresight, if you want to call it that, or his deductive reasoning, created basically a clone machine to create a Batman for each era after he's gone that gets Bruce Wayne's experiences downloaded into his body. So, I mean, I guess that in some way kind of explains why Bruce Wayne is perpetually young.
Well, that actually, it's funny. It was their 50th or 75th anniversary. I forget, however old Batman is. There was a particular issue, and there were hints of this before, but Batman had stolen a device, I think from Cadmus, or was it Ra's al Ghul? I forget. Anyway, and then this whole issue goes into the fact that he believes that the world, I mean, this is how much hubris he has. The world can't live without a Batman. So he believes that Batman has to continue to exist, but he will always get old. So in the cartoons, how does Batman fix this? He has Batman Beyond, right? But in the comic books, he has to figure out a way so there will always be a Batman. So he comes up with this idea long before this comic that, yes, he will create a clone. And then every time, what will happen is the previous Batman's like Batcave and Rogues Gallery and all that kind of stuff gets burned, except the Batman is downloaded to the initial memories of, like, he lost his parents, the stuff that motivated him. But he doesn't have any prior history with his Rogue Gallery. And then he just starts anew. And then in the particular issue that I read, like, it shows Batman in the future and, you know, like way future, like cyberpunk stuff.
That's almost hell. It's like a self-perpetuating hell.
But it's a hell that Batman would love. You have to understand, this is a man who doesn't even want to go to therapy to get over the death of his parents. He wants to live in that hell. So that for him.
We've talked about this before, about how he's just perpetually, you know, self-arrested development and just like self-punishing.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Aubrey? Sorry.
Oh, just that sort of leads to what I was getting at with what he's always doing is trying to put meaning to his parents' deaths. And that's what makes this case that he solves, which I'll just jump to the end of the case that he keeps having these flashbacks to. he finds out that the reason his parents were killed, it was like for a reason. And it was because they did something terrible and unethical and caused the death of a child and then covered it up. So there's actually a reason that they died. So what does that do? That totally unwinds and untwists everything that Batman is and everything, why he's been doing what he's doing, which is trying to bring meaning to it. Well, this horrible thing happened, but I can make it meaningful and I make it make sense by beating up bad guys forever, right? But if his parents were actually bad guys and they actually saw like justice in a way, you know, obviously murder isn't really justice, but they saw some kind of justice from people who saw what they did and wanted to make it right in a twisted way, then what is he doing? And that's why you end up with Omega. Ultimately, I think.
I love it when writers do twists on Thomas and Martha Wayne where they're not decent people. Like the Telltale game, the Telltale Batman game. The Waynes are pretty corrupt people in that story. I was like, okay, this is like a refreshing take on the mythology.
Let me ask you, so I was a little bit confused about that part. So that's what it seems to be, the resolution to the case. But then it seems like the Joker says, well, actually, I manipulated the DNA, I cloned something. So it seems like, and this isn't unusual for the Joker to kind of try to help Batman basically heal. Like Joker feels like, I want to be the focus of everything. I don't want anything else to distract you. I don't want your parents. I don't want some other bad guy. So I want to help you heal so that I can hurt you. Which is basically, you know, because every time you think about your parents, it's taking away from me. So I want to help you heal. So it seemed like he actually planted that and made the case. And in fact, Thomas Wayne didn't hurt anyone, from what I understood.
Right.
And in fact, Joker just made it seem that way so that Batman could feel like, oh, well, my parents aren't great, I'm going to move on, kind of thing.
Right. So in the timeline where Bruce becomes Batman, becomes Omega, that's what he discovers. He discovers this case and like, oh, ends up becoming Omega. But then this Bruce, which is a clone, as you had said, Johnny, this one finds out that wasn't the case. And that's what leads him on this other path of this other Batman. And I think that also helps explain why this Joker head is willing to travel with him and has this relationship with him that he does, because he's like, oh shit, like that thing that I did to get closer to you basically and to make you focus on me more ended up with me as a disembodied head in a desert for 30 years or whatever. Maybe that wasn't the best route to take. Maybe I'll just be Robin. that might be the best path to finally get closer to his hero.
I'm we've read so many Batman stories and capes and cowls are not kind of my thing. And I initially reading through the story, I was like, man, I don't know about this. But the more we're talking about it, the more I'm starting to appreciate the book. Like it's growing on me and talking about it.
But yeah, I will. Oh, go ahead, Aubrey.
Oh, just one thing about the book. So like I have so many good things to say about it because I just love it, but I also can objectively see all of its flaws too. And I think one of its biggest flaws is the pacing. The pacing is bad. It is way too fast. It's too rushed. Like there's too much crammed into every page. And some of the explanations lack some of the clarity that they could have had if they'd been able to stretch their legs a little bit. I think that's one of the biggest issues and why it's really good to reread it a couple times too.
It's so funny you say that because I just got the DC Infinite, whatever. It's like all you can eat digital comics for DC. And so I've been reading some of the stories I've never read. And I find that DC either goes too short, like you just said, or they string it out to 52 issues. And it's like, I don't even remember what the point of the story was. and it wasn't even worth the payoff. And I would be pissed if I paid for all those issues individually. But I agree, some of the pacing. For me, the biggest flaw I had with the premise was one of the core premises is that we didn't discuss it, but basically Superman and Luthor have this bizarre like debate, and then it's tied to the psyche of every person on Earth, and depending on who wins the debate, that person dies. So in the end, everyone chose chaos and doom, and then what ended up happening was Batman still believed in humanity, let humans into the Hall of Justice, and they ended up killing him. Like they ended up mobbing him. And to me, without any premise of a virus, any kind of 28 days later thing, what the old Batman was describing, which was like a father and son beating him to death, and then a 7-year-old kid setting him on fire. I was like, would that really happen? I mean, absent any kind of rage virus, just because people choose chaos, I would think, okay, maybe they would loot something or, whatever. But it suddenly became like this weird purge scenario where people were like, you know what? Screw Batman. I'm a 7-year-old little girl. I'm going to set fire to him like I always wanted to. I was like, I'm pretty sure the little girl would have made, yeah.
Not just him. They killed like the entire Justice League.
And other villains.
Yeah, and villains too.
Which is like ridiculous to think like, oh, so a mob of unruly, purge-minded civilians can suddenly like overrun superheroes? That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, even if the superheroes were pulling their punches, they could still wrangle these people and not like, that's kind of extreme.
It's already, the kid's already so jaded.
Right. So yeah, for me, the main linchpin of the whole story, I in my head, I'm able to hand wave it away. But the fact that society totally collapsed and chose doom, and even little kids are willing to kill superheroes, just seemed a little too far-fetched for me. Well, for the most part, I enjoyed the story, though.
Luthor kept making references to Brainiac, like using Brainiac algorithms or something. I don't remember exactly what. So then I kept expecting that to come into play with like, oh, they use this algorithm to get everybody's thoughts on yay or nay that Batman or Superman or Luthor won this argument about the souls of the world, and like somehow Brainiac used that to take over everybody's thoughts, but like that never came into play. It was just everyone just got jaded and attacked the superheroes and the bad guys. So yeah, that was.
I think
now I'm starting to ebb back towards not liking the story.
Well, I think that speaks. Those are all really good points, and I think it speaks to maybe us as readers in regards to like the idea that people just wouldn't do that. Maybe I think you have more faith in people than I do, and I'm also coming at this from, as I've gotten older, I've definitely gotten more into the sort of Watchmen perspective of superhero comics. As much as I still enjoy them. But I think that's a more realistic, the Watchmen universe and the way that the people kind of see the superheroes there eventually is a more realistic portrayal of how things would really go down. And because people, I don't think, will worship other people in the way that they do in the traditional superhero lines. And I think that this whole book is more Watchmen-like than maybe the traditional Batman books that we're used to. So I sort of saw it from that perspective. And I guess I also did assume, because they are using the anti-life equation, and I kind of assumed there was something going on with that for this sort of pre-finale that happens where they kill Batman and they kill a bunch of other superheroes. But also, the world has just been thrown into chaos because Superman was just killed on live TV in front of everyone while they were connected to him with their minds. So I think that could be part of it.
Yeah.
It's like... yeah,
you're right. I completely forgot about there was an insurrection at our capital.
Yes.
Well,
yeah.
But here's the thing. I'm totally I could believe that, but I feel like having read enough zombie superhero stuff, like the superheroes usually can fend off the zombies. You're telling me like Batman couldn't just like, oh, this father and son are coming after me, I'm just gonna let them beat me up? I mean, bail out. You've fought worse. You've fought henchmen with machine guns. You can at least block those guys and then leave. Not necessarily punch them, but leave. But that was the problem I had. But I did like what you were talking about, the anti-life equation. And it's funny because some of these stories, sometimes they let it play out in different ways. In the DC zombie story, Deceased, that's exactly what happens. Darkseid messes with the anti-life equation badly. It gets transmitted electronically via phone, and everyone's hooked on the phone. And everyone, the minute they watch their phone, they become brainwashed, and it becomes like basically 28 days later. They become, foaming zombies, and it affects superheroes, and then that makes the whole situation worse. But regardless, it's funny because they do explore some of these like what ifs that we touched upon just by looking at this story. So it was fascinating. And then I thought this Batman and the reveal that it was the older Batman, not some other clone, but in fact it was
original.
just the original, the real one who became so jaded that he was like, no, I need to lock it down. It, like you said, Aubrey, it's his natural progression. If you untether him from having to repeat his hell of always saving people, this is his natural progression.
It's more Frank Miller Batman than it is like a Jeff Loeb kind of Batman or something.
Well, and if you think about it, I mean, it is kind of ridiculous that you always let the Joker free, and I mean, how many times are you going to fight the Riddler before you kill him? So it would make sense that a real Batman that who can see the consequences would be like, fuck this, let's just lock everything down, kill the villains, and, I'm going to make an authoritarian society. People want to be ruled and controlled, etc. Some Matrix quote. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Matrix quote goes here.
Yeah.
It's definitely a trauma reaction. It's kind of a classic trauma reaction, is that one bad thing happens and then you react in an oversized way to anything similar and try to like control and really lock things down. But just taking that trauma reaction and putting it in the superhero world where he has much more power than anyone should ever or could ever have in real life.
And that's great you bring that up, because going back to, what was it, our first episode, Johnny, where our Batman, where it's one bad day, right? What's one bad day and how it affects you. And the one bad day affected Joker, and the Red Hood became the Joker. And for Batman, his one bad day of losing his parents, he went the other way where he became the Batman. So, yeah. Everyone's just dealing with a lot of bad trauma. And really, they just need... Stop building bat wings and get a decent therapist. Boom, done.
Yeah, that's all. Dennis and I have talked about this on numerous episodes about ultra rich superheroes. It's like, if you guys just took your money and invested it back into society instead of building cloning machines, just think of how much more benefit it would be to everyone. But no, you're so fucking egomaniac, such an egomaniac that I'm the only one that can save people. It's well, overall. What would you guys recommend the book? What'd you think?
I highly recommend it. Like I said, it's not without its flaws, but it's just a super fun and super interesting, really loving exploration of the Batman universe and the Batman character. I think they treat it with a lot of respect while also taking it to this really wild place.
I forgot to ask before I give my opinion, Aubrey, what is your relationship with Batman? Are you a super fan, you're just casual, or?
I would call myself a casual fan, at risk of, if I say anything more than that, a little girl will set me on fire. So I've read I have a couple of the paperbacks of the original Batman series. I have volumes 1 and 2, and then I've read some Frank Miller, and I think that's about it. I've seen all the movies, and that's all I got.
Cool. Yeah, I would consider myself a medium fan. I'm never a super fan. You don't quote me on everyone's alter ego or anything like that, but I've read quite a bit of it, and I really enjoyed this story. Like I said, I appreciate you picking this one because I think it's a really good cap off to Scott Snyder's run on the Batman series, and art's fantastic. Just for the art alone, I would read it, but I think the story is really solid. Like I said, I just have that one point, but I'm willing to hand wave it to get through it because I understand this is like a Elseworld kind of title. So highly recommended. I would get the trade for sure.
Dennis, you saying you're not a super, you would say you're a medium fan, reminds me of one of my really close friends. He's a Mesoamerican archaeologist, and he specializes in Mayans. So we went to go visit him. My girlfriend and I went to go visit him in Mexico City when he was finishing up some schooling down there, him and his wife and his daughter. And he's like, do you want to go down to the main central part of Mexico City, and we'll go to the museum there. There's an Aztec pyramid coming out of the middle of the city. The museum's built around it. I'll give you guys a tour. I was like, sure, great. That sounds awesome. We went down there with his daughter. My girlfriend and I went down there with him, and we're walking around, and he's like, now, you guys, the Aztecs are not my specialty. I could arrange for a friend that's an Aztec specialist to come down here if you guys want to go a different day. But, the Mayans are my thing. And then he proceeded to blow our minds with how much knowledge he had about Aztecs. And I was like, dude, what are you talking about? He's like, well, it's not my specialty. But I was like, you know fucking everything about Aztecs. So so that's you, Dennis. It's not my specialty, but I know everything about him.
What I like to say is I could blend in with comic book nerd guy, but I wouldn't want to be him. I think that's the difference. Like, I'm not going to correct someone. It's like, actually, I understand there's different versions of Batman and all that kind of stuff. So I never fault anyone for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. We appreciate it.
Johnny,
Aubrey,
what about you?
Oh,
what did you think of the book?
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that.
Tune in to the next episode.
Gotcha.
Same GNC channel, same GNC time. I'm sort of over reading Batman stories, but I'll piggyback on what you said, Aubrey. It's like it was a lot jammed in there, a lot. It was super fast paced, and like I was more interested in the first half of the story when it was like, oh, is this a insane Bruce Wayne? Insane Bruce Wayne? That sounds weird. Insane Bruce Wayne.
Insane in the Bruce Wayne.
Insane the Bruce.
Insane the Bruce Wayne. It was okay. I don't listen to me because I'm not a big Batman fan. I'm kind of Batman burned out, but I'm Batman burned out. But
fuck you,
I like
John.
the art.
No.
I like the art a lot. But yeah, go off of Aubrey and Dennis if you like Batman.
You don't
like Batman, go off. Listen to me. But Aubrey, if people want to follow you, where can they do that?
At Mixtape Majesty on Instagram, Mixtape Majesty with an _ on Twitter.
Cool. And Dennis, where can people follow the podcast?
On Insta and Twitter at GN Explorers Club.
Cool. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode of our summer special. Thanks for listening.
Yay.